I used to think betrayal would hit you like a sledgehammer. Dramatic, loud, obvious. But in my case, it started with something small. Just a detail. A shadow in the corner of a screen. It was a Tuesday. Nothing fancy about it. Just your classic business trip morning. I was in Des Moines, holed up in a budget hotel with stale air and carpet older than my marriage. The kind of place that makes you miss your own bed, even if your own bed hasn't felt like home in a while. I woke up to the hum of the ice machine outside my door and the weak sunlight creeping through the beige curtains. Made some hotel coffee, which tasted like it had been filtered through regret, and got ready for my meetings. Checked my email, answered a few texts. Routine stuff. By late afternoon, I was back in my room. Tired. Hungry. Lonely in that familiar, married but alone kind of way. That's when I FaceTimed her, my wife, Lena. We did that a lot when I traveled. It was our thing. A habit. We'd talk about our day, maybe tease each other, complain about coworkers. Sometimes she'd prop the phone up while she made dinner, and I'd pretend I could smell it. That day was no different at first. She answered on the second ring, her face filling the screen, smiling. She was wearing that old college hoodie of mine, the one she always said was way too comfortable to give back. That sight alone used to calm me. Used to. But then, a shift. A flicker. Something in the corner of the screen moved. A blur of skin. Just an arm. Not hers. And just like that, my gut twisted. I didn't say anything. Just blinked, smiled, and listened as she rambled on about some podcast she'd been into lately. I laughed at the right parts. Nodded. Said sounds interesting, like a man who wasn't trying to keep his breakfast down. It could have been anything, right? Just a shadow. Maybe the cat. Maybe a TV reflection. My brain offered up all the excuses, logical, calm ones, while something deeper in me had already cracked. That little blur? That nothing of a detail? It was the start of the end. The point of no return, hiding in plain sight. And I wish to God I was wrong. Before that blur on the screen, before suspicion carved a pit in my stomach, life felt manageable. Not perfect. Not some romantic comedy with morning kisses and spontaneous weekend getaways. But it was our life. Our little world. Lena and I had been married 8 years. We met at a friend's housewarming. I was the guy awkwardly trying to open a wine bottle with a screwdriver, and she was the girl who laughed instead of judging me. That's what got me. Her laugh. She had this way of making everything feel lighter. We built a cozy life out of shared groceries, mismatched furniture, and lazy Sunday mornings. Saturday pancakes were my thing, coffee was hers. Our couch had a dip in the middle from all the binge watching. Even our fights were oddly civilized, more sighs and silence than yelling. Like two people who cared enough not to destroy each other, even when we were mad. I travel a lot for work, nothing glamorous, just sales. Hotels, presentations, the occasional cheap steak on the company card. And every time I came back, she'd be waiting at the airport, arms crossed, but smiling like she was trying not to. That routine, the calls, the texts, the check-ins, it felt like an anchor. Something stable. Predictable. I thought that was love. Familiarity. Comfort. Safety. But now I wonder if I mistook routine for connection. If I confused her warmth with loyalty. Because looking back, there were signs. Little ones. The way she'd sometimes lock her phone when I walked into the room. The way our conversations got shorter. The way her laugh started sounding like it was meant for someone else. I ignored it. Told myself we were just tired. That marriage had seasons, and we were in a cold one. Turns out, it wasn't a season. It was erosion. Quiet, slow, and deadly. And I had no clue how far it had gone, not yet. I should have let it go. That's what I told myself, over and over, right after the call ended. Just a flicker. Could have been anything. A trick of the light. A passing movement. Nothing to ruin a marriage over. But I didn't let it go. Not really. Not deep down. See, something changed in me after that call. It wasn't immediate. I didn't start tearing the place apart or calling her 20 times. I'm not that guy. I'm the guy who overthinks, who second-guesses, who keeps it all behind his eyes until it boils over. That night, though, I laid in bed, phone resting on my chest, screen dark, and I replayed the call in my head a dozen times. Her expressions, the way she kept glancing off-screen like she was distracted, the slight hesitation before she said goodnight. That hoodie, mine, technically, but it didn't feel like a connection anymore. It felt like camouflage. The thing is, when trust breaks, it's not loud. It's quiet. It's a whisper that something's off. A detail that doesn't line up. That's all it takes. And once that whisper starts, it doesn't stop. It crawls into everything. The next morning, I couldn't focus during my meeting. I found myself checking the call history, the timestamps. I even zoomed in on the screenshot from our FaceTime call, like I was some kind of detective, looking for clues in pixels. Pathetic, right? But it felt like something snapped in me that day. Not all at once, more like a small, silent fracture that kept spreading. I used to trust her without question. That call? It was the moment I realized I didn't. Not fully. Not anymore. And once that thought settles in, it starts eating everything else. Suspicion, once it shows up, doesn't knock. It moves in, takes your spot on the couch, drinks your coffee, and changes the way you see everything. I went through the motions that day. Showered, dressed, smiled at the receptionist. Gave my presentation like nothing was wrong. But in the back of my mind, the wheels were spinning nonstop. I wasn't angry. Not yet. That came later. At this stage, I was unsettled. Like when you're walking across a frozen lake and you hear a crack under your boot. You don't fall right away, but your stomach drops because you know something's not right. That night, I didn't FaceTime her. Told her I was tired, needed an early night. She just texted back a thumbs up. No concern, no feel better, no kiss emoji. Weird. I started thinking about all the times I'd brushed off those gut feelings. Like the week before, when I called and she didn't pick up, said she was napping, but I could have sworn I heard music in the background. Or the time I came home from a trip and she smelled like cologne that wasn't mine, and she said it was probably from hugging a coworker. I believed it. Because I wanted to. Now, every little memory like that came rushing back with new meaning. And it wasn't just paranoia. It felt like my brain was finally piecing together a puzzle it didn't know it had been solving all along. I started watching her Instagram stories more closely, noticing who she tagged, whose posts she liked. There was this one guy always commenting, always dropping those funny but flirty emojis. I never thought twice about it before. Now, I was starting to think he wasn't just funny. Still, I told myself, don't jump to conclusions. Don't be that guy. But the problem with suspicion is, once it grabs hold, it doesn't let go easy. And part of me already knew. I just wasn't ready to admit it out loud yet. I'm not the impulsive type. Never have been. I don't yell, I don't throw things, and I sure as hell don't accuse without proof. But once the suspicion settled in, I knew I couldn't just sit with it. I needed to know. That meant watching. First step? I logged into our shared phone account. Not because I'm some genius, just because I pay the bill. Turns out, being the one who handles the logistics of the household has its perks. And there it was, her call log, texts, data usage. I wasn't expecting to find anything blatant. She's not dumb. But there was a number that stood out. Same area code. Frequent texts. Always around the same hours, late at night, early morning, even during the workday. I copied the number and plugged it into Google. A name came up. Guy I'd never heard of. His profile wasn't private, though thank God for social media oversharers. He looked exactly like the type of guy who buys pre-workout powder in bulk and refers to women as females. I kept digging. A few mutuals. One of them? Lena's coworker. That's when the pieces really started clicking into place. I scrolled back through my memories like a human surveillance tape. All the times she said she had to stay late for meetings. All the times she'd take calls outside, because the signal was better. The extra gym clothes in the trunk that I didn't remember her wearing. It was like a curtain was lifting, and behind it was a version of my marriage I didn't recognize. Still, I needed more. I didn't want maybes. I wanted something undeniable. So I got creative. Logged into our shared Apple ID. FaceTime calls? All listed. I scrolled through the timestamps, and there it was, a call from her in the night before our weird FaceTime. The same time I'd been stuck at the airport. It wasn't to me. I clicked it. It didn't play, of course. FaceTime doesn't store recordings. But it gave me just enough info to start building a picture. Next, I checked our home security app. One of those smart cams I installed last year, mostly to keep an eye on package thieves. But I'd forgotten there was one in the living room. She had forgotten too. It didn't record video unless I turned that feature on manually. Which, up until that night, I hadn't. But now? Yeah, I turned it on. Set it to notify me the next time motion was detected in that room. And then I waited. I didn't know exactly what I was looking for yet. But something told me I wouldn't have to wait long. 2 days later, I got the notification. I was sitting in a hotel lobby, waiting for a client meeting that I couldn't have cared less about, when my phone buzzed. Motion detected, living room cam. I opened the app. It was grainy, a little delayed, but clear enough. Lena walked into the frame. She was laughing. Not the laugh she gave me lately, the half-hearted, distracted kind, but something fuller. Real. The kind of laugh I hadn't seen in a while. Then he walked in. Tall, built, baseball cap pulled low. He didn't look like the guy from the social media profile. He was the guy. They were close. Way too close. Her body language screamed it. You don't stand like that with someone you're just friends with. They weren't doing anything explicitly sexual. I want to be clear on that. No kissing. No groping. But honestly, they didn't have to. Sometimes, betrayal isn't what people do. It's how they look at each other. And the way she looked at him? That was enough. She said once that I don't notice details. Ironic, right? Because I noticed everything in that 30-second clip. The way she touched her hair. The way she leaned in. The wine glasses already on the table. The fact that she was wearing the same hoodie she wore when she FaceTimed me, my hoodie. He sat on the couch. She sat next to him. Too close. And then the feed froze. Not because of some technical issue. Because she turned the camera off. She remembered. That was it. That was the confirmation I didn't want but needed. I sat there in that hotel lobby, people walking past me, laughing, checking in for conferences, and I felt like I was moving in slow motion. Numb. Cold. Like my body was trying to process it, but my heart was lagging behind. I just saved the clip. Backed it up 3 different ways. And that night, instead of FaceTiming her like I usually did, I didn't call at all. I didn't even text. Let her wonder. Let her enjoy the silence. The silence didn't last long. By morning, my phone had 3 missed calls and a couple of, "Hey, everything okay?" texts. She even dropped in a heart emoji like that was supposed to patch the widening crater in my chest. I didn't respond. I couldn't. Not because I was being dramatic, but because anything I said would have come out wrong. Or too honest. Instead, I sat on the edge of the hotel bed, watching that saved clip again. Just once. Just to remind myself I wasn't imagining it. I needed to see what my brain already accepted, but my heart kept trying to deny. She was gone. Not physically. Not yet. But emotionally? Spiritually? That woman on the couch wasn't the one I married. That version of her had slipped through my fingers, somewhere between laundry cycles and, "How was your day?" I started thinking back, like really thinking about how we got here. About when it started to shift. It wasn't one big thing. It was gradual. She used to meet me at the door when I came home. Now she barely looked up from her phone. We used to talk late into the night about anything, stupid dreams, half-baked plans, people we pretend to be if we quit our jobs. Now, if I said more than 2 sentences, she'd nod distractedly, already halfway into a TikTok rabbit hole. There wasn't a fight. There wasn't some loud fracture. We didn't scream. We just faded. And I guess I thought that was normal. I figured all long-term relationships settle into that quiet, predictable rhythm. I thought comfort meant love. But maybe comfort was just the absence of conflict. And love, real love, requires more effort than autopilot. She stopped trying. And honestly, so did I. That part hurt. Not just what she did, but realizing I let it happen too. And now here we were. Her on a couch with another man. Me in a hotel room, staring at a screen, wondering if I'd ever feel like I mattered again. I flew home 2 days early. Didn't tell her. Didn't give a heads up. Just packed my things after my last meeting, changed my flight, and drove straight from the airport to our house. My house. Whatever it was now. The drive was quiet. No music. Just tires on asphalt and a heartbeat in my throat. I wasn't sure what I'd do when I got there. I didn't have a script. Part of me wanted to kick the door open and lay it all out. Show her the clip. The call logs. The text I'd pulled from our carrier account. Every breadcrumb I'd gathered like a man possessed. But when I pulled into the driveway and saw her car, alone, I hesitated. I sat there for a while. Engine off. Hands on the steering wheel. Just breathing. You never really prepare for this part. The before. That strange limbo where the truth is known but unspoken. Where you still technically have a wife, but she's not really yours anymore. Eventually, I went inside. She was in the kitchen, making dinner like it was any other Tuesday. Some pasta dish smelled good too. That's the thing, right? Life doesn't pause just because your heart's falling apart. The stove still needs cleaning. The groceries still go in the fridge. She looked surprised to see me, but not alarmed. Just blinked a few times and smiled. Told me I was home early. That maybe we could watch a movie after dinner. And I almost lost it. Not in an angry, screaming way. I don't yell. I just stood there, staring at her, wondering how she could act so normal when I knew everything. wondering how many nights she'd cooked meals in this kitchen and then turned around and sent flirty texts to him while I did the dishes. I told her I was tired, that I just wanted to shower. She nodded, went back to stirring the pot, and I walked upstairs, shut the door, and sat on the edge of the bed. I didn't confront her that night. I couldn't. Not because I didn't want to, but because some part of me wasn't ready to hear her lie to my face. Not yet. I wasn't afraid of the truth. I was afraid of the casual way she'd deliver it. Like it wasn't a big deal. Like what we had, what I thought we had, was something she could step over without flinching. So I waited. One more night. Let her enjoy the comfort of pretending. Tomorrow, I'd tear it all down. The next morning, I woke up before her. Just lay there in the gray light, staring at the ceiling fan spin like it had nothing better to do. She was curled up beside me like nothing had changed. Like she wasn't sneaking around behind my back. Like she didn't spend last Tuesday night on our couch with another man while wearing my hoodie. I watched her breathe. I watched the peaceful rise and fall of someone who didn't know the walls were about to come down. By the time she got up, I had already set everything up. Laptop open, video paused at the exact frame. Her, laughing on the couch, wine glass in hand. A frozen little betrayal, waiting. She came into the kitchen in her robe, yawning, looking half asleep. Asked if I wanted coffee. I said yeah. My voice was calm. Too calm. That probably should have tipped her off. Once she sat down with her mug, I said her name. Just once. Quietly. And then I turned the laptop toward her. She looked at it. Looked at me. Then back at the screen. And blinked. Nothing else. No gasp. No guilt. No breakdown. Just a calm, almost amused expression. She asked what that was supposed to prove. I stared at her. Was she serious? She said, yeah, that's our house. And yes, she had a friend over. She insisted it was innocent. That I was overreacting. That I must have misinterpreted what I saw. I reminded her the camera turned off right after. She shrugged. Said the battery probably died. I asked her about the call log. About the dozens of FaceTimes, texts, late-night messages to that guy. She rolled her eyes. Said he was just someone from work. A friend. Said the world is full of insecure husbands who can't handle their wives having male friends. She doubled down. Over and over. Every question I asked, she deflected. Every truth I offered, she spun. I felt like I was arguing with a fog. Nothing stuck. It wasn't the lies that hurt the most. It was how good she was at them. She didn't flinch. Didn't stutter. She looked me dead in the eyes and told me I was paranoid. That the pressure of work must have finally gotten to me. That maybe I needed to talk to someone. I didn't say much after that. Just closed the laptop, picked up my phone, and left the house. She could sit in that kitchen and pretend. Let her stew in it. Because I already knew. And deep down, so did she. The thing about lying is, it's hard to do well under pressure, especially when the person you're lying to already knows the truth. I stayed out most of that day. Drove aimlessly, grabbed coffee I didn't finish, parked in a grocery store lot for 2 hours just watching people come and go. Normal people. People who didn't have to question if the person they built a life with was someone they never really knew. When I came home, she was in the living room pretending to read. The same spot where it all went down. She asked if I was okay. I said I wasn't sure. She asked if we could talk. And so we did. I gave her every chance. Every out. I asked if there was anything she wanted to tell me. Anything at all. I kept my voice even, calm, controlled. Not because I wasn't angry. I was boiling. But I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing it. She said no. Nothing to tell. Nothing had happened. Again. And again. I brought up his name. Let's call him Ryan. She barely blinked. Said Ryan was just a friend. That I must be confusing friendliness with flirting. I asked her if she'd ever cheated. She scoffed. Said of course not. I asked if she'd ever thought about it. She hesitated. Just for a second. But long enough for me to see the crack. Then she said no. That wasn't who she was. Funny. Because that's exactly what I used to believe too. I laid out more evidence. The texts, the late-night FaceTimes, the disappearing camera footage. Still, she denied it all. Said I was overanalyzing, twisting things. Said it was my fault for spying. That one got me. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so backwards I couldn't believe she even had the nerve to say it out loud. She called it an invasion of privacy. I called it waking up. We sat in silence for a long time after that. I think, for a brief moment, she considered telling the truth. I could see it. Her eyes were glassy, her hands fidgeting. But something in her pride, fear, control, it wouldn't let her. She stuck to the script, held the line, and I realized right then, she wasn't just lying to me. She was lying to herself. And maybe that's worse. The truth didn't come out with a bang. No big dramatic confession. No tears on the kitchen floor. It slipped. Just a small stumble in her story, and once it happened, she couldn't stuff it back in. It was late. We were in the bedroom, both pretending to sleep. She had her back to me. I was staring at the ceiling, counting the seconds between her fake breaths. I knew she wasn't asleep. You don't lie still like that when you're actually at peace. Out of nowhere, she spoke. Quiet, like she was talking to herself. She said she couldn't believe I would think she'd throw everything away over some flirty nonsense with Ryan. Just like that. With Ryan. Not over nothing. Not because of what you saw. Not because you're paranoid. But with Ryan. The phrasing. The reflexive way she said it. It was the first honest thing she'd said in days. I didn't respond. Didn't flinch. Just tucked that phrase away. In the morning, I brought it up. I asked her casually why she called it flirty nonsense with Ryan. She froze. Said she didn't remember saying that. Tried to brush it off like I must have misheard her. I didn't push. Just nodded. But I saw the panic behind her eyes. A shift. She knew the dam had cracked. And once a crack shows up, everything you try to pile on top just starts leaking through. Later that day, her tone changed. She started walking on eggshells. More careful with her words. Softer. Sweeter, even. Asked if I wanted to do something together. Go for a walk. Watch a movie. She wanted to rewind time. Pretend this wasn't happening. But I wasn't playing anymore. I watched her unravel in slow motion, trying to keep the lies stitched together with band-aids and borrowed smiles. And the saddest part? She still wouldn't admit it. Not even when the truth was sitting right between us like a third person at the table. Because if she admitted it, she'd have to admit who she became. And maybe she wasn't ready to face that either. The denial held, right up until it couldn't. It wasn't one big reveal. It wasn't even me cornering her with the camera footage or the phone records. No, what broke her wasn't anything I did. It was something she forgot to hide. She left her iPad on the kitchen counter. Unlocked. Careless. Maybe she was tired of lying. Maybe she was hoping I'd find it, so she wouldn't have to say the words herself. I wasn't snooping. Not this time. I was just looking for a recipe we had saved in notes. But the Messages app was still open. And there he was. Ryan. The last thing she typed? I don't think he's buying it anymore. He's too quiet. I feel sick. And his reply? Just hold it together a little longer. You said he never reacts. That was it. That was the unraveling. A digital whisper that made everything real. The lies. The sneaking. The way she looked me in the eye and played innocent. She came into the kitchen a few minutes later, humming some tune, hair still wet from the shower. She saw the iPad in my hand. Saw the screen. Saw my face. And then, for the first time, she broke. She didn't cry. Not at first. Just froze. Like a computer mid-crash. Her mouth opened slightly, but nothing came out. She looked like someone who had just walked into a room and found their whole world flipped upside down. I didn't yell. I didn't ask a thing. I just stood there, waiting, letting the silence work like truth serum. And then she said it. The words were quiet, almost too soft to catch. I didn't mean for it to go this far. There it was. No more pretending. No more spinning stories or flipping blame. Just 5 little words that said everything. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. I turned, walked out, and let her sit with it. Because sometimes the best response isn't rage. It's absence. She wanted me to react. To fight. To scream. That would have given her something to hold on to. But I gave her nothing. Just space. Silence. The sound of her own guilt. And somehow, that felt like the loudest thing in the world. I slept in the guest room that night. Not because I had to, but because I couldn't stomach lying next to her anymore. The bed we used to share suddenly felt like sacred ground that had been defiled. She didn't knock. Didn't try to talk. I think she knew there wasn't anything left to say that wouldn't sound like damage control. And honestly, I didn't want an apology. I didn't want explanations. I wanted clarity. Space. A clean exit from the wreckage. In the morning, the house felt still. Almost respectful, like it knew something had died in it. She made coffee like usual, like some ritual would hold the day together. I didn't touch it. I sat at the table, staring out the window while she moved around like a ghost playing house. It was surreal, the same sounds, the same smells, the same ordinary stuff, but none of it felt like mine anymore. I started packing that afternoon. Not my bags, not yet, but my mind. getting things straight, making lists in my head, joint accounts to separate, subscriptions to cancel, names to remove from paperwork. The business of ending something you never thought you'd have to walk away from. She finally broke the silence sometime after lunch. She asked what I was going to do. I said I didn't know yet. And that was the truth. Not a weapon, not a threat, just honesty. I didn't know if I was going to file the next day or the next week. I didn't know if I wanted to stay in the house or let her rot in it alone. I didn't know if I'd ever trust anyone again or if I even wanted to try. What I did know was this. I couldn't go back. Not from this. Not after watching her fight so hard to protect a lie while watching me come undone right in front of her. She stood there for a long time, like she wanted to say something else. But she didn't. And I didn't ask her to. The air between us wasn't a marriage anymore. It was just residue. Smoke after the burn. And all I could think was, how did something so comfortable become so cold? There's this weird moment that hits you after the fallout, not the fight, not the discovery, but the quiet that follows. The in-between. You're no longer a husband in the way you were, but you're not exactly single either. You're just untethered, floating. I sat on the porch that evening, nursing a beer that had gone warm, watching the sky trade orange for black. She was inside somewhere, pretending to be busy, folding laundry, probably, or staring blankly at her phone, waiting for Ryan to text something comforting. I didn't care. And I don't mean that in a bitter, chest-thumping way. I mean it in the numb, hollow way that comes when the grief has exhausted itself and left behind something quieter. Not peace, not yet. Just exhaustion. We hadn't spoken much since the slip. I didn't mean for it to go this far. That phrase kept playing on loop in my mind. Not because of what it meant, but because of how empty it felt. Like she was trying to blame momentum. As if affairs happen like rolling down a hill and not a series of conscious decisions. It did go that far. That's the thing. Every touch. Every message. Every time she looked at me and chose to lie instead of tell the truth, that was a step further. And now she wanted to walk it back. Rewind the tape. But me? I'd already stopped the movie. That night, I opened a new bank account. Started looking into apartments. Just something short-term. I wasn't going to rush it, but I needed to make moves. Not for her, for me. She must have seen the tabs on my laptop later, because the next morning, she was suddenly helpful. Asking if I wanted breakfast. Offering to do my laundry. She even smiled at me, the kind of smile that used to mean something. But now? It looked like a mask she forgot she was wearing. And I couldn't fake it anymore. I told her, gently, honestly, that I didn't know what was next. That we'd talk soon. Figure out what to do with the house, the finances, the mess. She nodded. And for once, she didn't try to talk me out of it. She just stood there, arms crossed, eyes glassy. And maybe, just maybe, she finally realized I was already halfway gone. It's been a few days since then. We're still in the same house, technically, but the distance between us feels like a canyon. We pass each other in the hallway like distant coworkers. No more forced smiles. No more pretending. It's quieter now. Not peaceful, just quiet. Like that pause between thunderclaps where the sky holds its breath. I haven't told anyone yet. Not friends. Not family. I don't know what I'd even say. Hey, remember Lena? Yeah, turns out our whole life was background noise while she was building a new one behind my back. Doesn't exactly roll off the tongue. I've been journaling, actually. Weird, I know. Just notes, really. Trying to make sense of what happened. Not so much for closure. I'm not sure I even believe in that. But just to see the arc. To watch myself go from clueless, to suspicious, to betrayed, to this. I think what surprises me the most is how little I feel now. Not rage. Not heartbreak. Just this low hum of disappointment. Not just in her, but in the whole idea of what we were. Maybe we weren't as solid as I thought. Maybe I stopped seeing her a long time ago, and she stopped seeing me too. And instead of talking about it, we both just filled in the blanks with routine and silence. She's still here, moving carefully around me like she doesn't want to step on any more broken glass. She offered to go stay at her sister's, but I said no. Not because I want her here. I don't. But because I want her to feel it. The discomfort. The weight. The shift. The house feels different now. Colder. Smaller. Like the walls have witnessed too much to pretend we're just another married couple working through a tough patch. She still hasn't said she's sorry. I think that says everything. As for me, I don't know what comes next. Divorce papers? Probably. A U-Haul and a fresh lease? Maybe. Therapy? I'll think about it. But I know this much. The version of me that used to believe in her, in us, he's gone. that guy doesn't live here anymore. And yet, in the quiet moments, I still find myself wondering if I missed something. If there was a moment I could have grabbed her hand and pulled her back. Saved it. Saved us. Maybe that's just the part of me that still hopes for good endings. Even when the story's already been told. I guess we all hold on to something. Even if it's just the shadow of hope.